fueled up this Rogers rocket flame during the live stream on Tuesday. Really kind of a mercurial lighter to fill up and get it to operate correctly. It'll light the stand-up cigarette flame with just about any petrol in it. But in order to get that jet flame to activate, you got to get the lighter to a certain level of saturation, which is very close to being vapor locked. So we're just going to check this out again. Fire it up a few times. So again, stand-up flame, no problem. There's your pipe flame. The pipe flame on these will be much stronger when the lighter is cold. The more that you heat that lighter up, the less likely it is to shoot that flame out, and it just kind of becomes a sort of leaning lazily that way rather than shooting straight out. So it appears that whatever is at work in that tube, the vacuum, whatever's being caused, I'm not an engineer or anything to analyze all that, but whatever it is, that pressure being built up has something to do with the temperature of the lighter, I believe. So cigarette flame, pipe flame, and you can see there now once that's lit up like it is. Hello Colt, glad to have you join us this morning. But you can see there where that pipe flame, after you get it good and heated up, or jet flame, whichever you want to call it, just doesn't want to activate. Hello Professor, yeah, hopped on for a minute here. Recording a video a while ago and noticed that that was still fueled up, very warm right now. And again, my experience is that the warmer that lighter, the less, what's the word? I'm wanting to say less sharp, but that's not the right word. The less precise. Just sort of creates a lazy flame, not that really strong jet flame that you'll see it cut. We'll let it cool down a minute now. The whole insert is very warm to the touch. Case as well. So we'll let that cool for a moment and then try it again. But yeah, glad to have you with us, Colt Crow, Professor Jude Hendricks Cardona. Yeah, it's a pretty cool lighter. It's a little bit of a mystery to me why it's just marked Rogers Japan on the bottom rather than Rogers Rocket Flame, because that is the model that this is a Rogers Rocket Flame. I don't know exactly which was the first. I know the Beatty Jet, that was bought, I believe that was manufactured in Europe first and then brought to the States. Could be wrong about that. But you had the Beatty Jet, you had the Mastercraft Pipe Lighter, you had the Champ Jetstream, the Rogers Rocket Flame. There are at least half a dozen others, but the Beatty Jet being the most prominent, the one that most people are aware of, and of course there are plenty of those out there. There you see, letting it cool down gives us a little bit more of that straight jet pipe flame. Yeah, I'm a little bit, Professor, a little bit erratic as far as my schedule. Things have kind of turned upside down. We've got a short up every day right now rather than a long form video, which we've typically always been the other way. So we'll see how things go here going into the new year. Did you, I think you may have left a message on my website. Jude Hendricks Cardona, that message sounds familiar. I've read it in the last couple of days and hadn't got around to responding. I don't know that particular lighter just by you by saying what it's marked. GW Japan SF Deluxe. If you want to send some pictures though, either to my email or go to the DependableFlame.com Facebook group. That is the best place to get help as far as that goes. I don't sell parts. There's a possibility that when I realize what kind of lighter it is that you're talking about, that I may have some parts that I can send you. I may have a donor lighter I could send you or something like that. Excuse me. But the good thing about posting in that DependableFlame.com Facebook group is that if I'm not able to help, there are over 1,000 other members in that group also who may have a lighter that they could sell you for, you know, nominal price that would get you the parts you need, or they may even be able to give you the parts just like I would if I had the parts to give you. But that's the best, that's probably the best and easiest way. Go over there to that DependableFlame.com Facebook group and join the group, and then just ask your question right there. Post pictures of your lighter, and like I said, I'll get to it, but chances are before I can even get to it, somebody else will probably already respond. It's a good group, a lot of knowledgeable lighter enthusiasts over there. The main key is that, is it a petrol lighter and is it flint sparked? Because that is my specialty. And I would say the majority of old vintage lighter collectors, people that work on them, there are those that work on butane lighters, but it's not near as prevalent as those that work on, repair, buy, sell, collect, whatever, petrol lighters. So it's cooled down again pretty good. Still seems like it's vapor locked just slightly. There's our stand-up flame and our pipe flame. Once it has converted over to the pipe flame, then it's like it keeps wanting to activate the pipe flame. But you can't just activate the pipe flame whenever you want. It's like you got to reset the vacuum and start over. My email is, if you go to DependableFlame.com, there's under one of the, I think the first menu on the left down at the bottom, or maybe the second menu. It is the second menu. Down at the bottom of the second menu from the left, it'll say Contact Us. And you'll find that a link to the Facebook group down there as well. Not to be confused with the Facebook page. Facebook group is really a much more community-driven. People post, people can ask questions, you can post pictures of lighters, videos. I think you can even create polls and all that kind of stuff. Hello, Mark. It says the algorithm brought me here. Digging the lighter. Is Rogers the manufacturer? Yes, Rogers is the manufacturer. Rogers was a pretty well-known lighter brand that was produced in Japan. I think this was a different company from the Rogers lighters that were made in England. There was also, now that I think about it, I think this Rogers that was made in Japan may have been imported into America, into New York, where the Rogers pipe lighter, which was an aluminum block pipe lighter, those were made in England. But yes, that is the brand. But I've got another, or I had another one of these several years ago, and I've seen other examples that don't just say Rogers, say the actual model, Rogers Rocket Flame. So it would be inaccurate to call this lighter a Zippo, Mark M. That is correct. You know, colloquially, generically speaking, there are plenty of folks who call any kind of vintage lighter a Zippo, and especially one that has a flip top. But as soon as you get a look at that snorkel on this one, then you're going to have some kind of idea that this is, if it were a Zippo, it wouldn't be your typical Zippo. A little bit more going on there. But in general, you have a lot of people, I would say the uninitiated, who will call any flip-top lighter or practically any petrol lighter a Zippo. And then you have those in the collecting community who are so fixed on Zippo that they call any flip-top lighter a Zippo knockoff. And I just don't know that that's the case. I'm not sure that Zippo was the first lighter that ever had a lid, but there have been others that, while they had the same lid, even with this Rogers Rocket Flame here, you can see it does have a hinge and a lid, but it's got a different spring system. That one is similar to the Park Industries, that leaf spring on the back of the insert that you saw on those American-made, not entirely, but largely aluminum-made lighters, especially in the 60s and 70s. A lot of people like to call those Park and Storm King lighters Zippo knockoffs. And that's fine. I get that Zippo is the one that made the flip-top petrol lighter so famous and so iconic. So yeah, the pipe flame, that's pretty nifty for something that was made in the middle of the last century, to be able to put your regular petrol fuel in there and achieve a flame that'll reach down into a pipe like a torch, butane torch would today. It is somewhat of an engineering marvel to me that all of that could be enclosed in this tiny little case. Works so well. This one is not the crispest of jet flames. Seems like the Beatty jets are much more precise. They really hiss as that flame shoots out that jet. And now we're having trouble even getting our stand-up cigarette flame to light. So I think that's probably still suffering from some vapor lock. We'll leave that lid shut for a minute though. Check back over here on the live chat, see if you guys have asked any other questions. Yeah, bossman at DependableFlame.com, that one will work. No, that's my business email. That email is out there. My other email is pretty much out there too, so whichever. But yeah, that one's good. The Bossman one is good. What year do I think that lighter was manufactured? The Rogers Rocket Flame, I think it was probably in the 50s. See if I can grab another iPad, maybe we can look that up. I can't remember whether the Rogers Rocket Flame is listed on the Toledo Bend site or not. We will. That is the first place I always look. Toledo Bend. This is a site built by, oh man, I can't even remember his last name now. First name's Frank. Toledo Bend BCL. Okay, and that brings up this site. Anyway, we'll go over here to see the Rogers. Do this off camera here. So there's Rogers Imports Inc. No relations to Rogers Silver Company. So here's the Rogers Rocket Flame. Let's see. And so looks like here on the Toledo Bend side anyway, they are putting this Rogers under the Rogers Imports Company, which I think that's one I was thinking of earlier that was in New York. See several different automatic type lighters, and then it says Rogers Rocket Flame 1958. This is a case lighter with an insert that is very, very similar to the Beatty Jet, which was 1944, as well as the similar lighters produced by Mastercraft Spitfire, Lord Chesterfield. I have had a Lord Chesterfield also. I've had a few Champ Jetstreams, which it says 1950, 55 for the Lord Chesterfield. I have not had a Mastercraft Spitfire. But according to this, that would be 1958. And it also has that as the same, because that is that Rogers pipe lighter. So I guess that Rogers pipe lighter that was made in England was imported into the U.S. by that same company. See another view. So we don't see the bottom stamp on either picture that they have here of the Rogers Rocket Flame on the Toledo Bend site. Yeah, it's in decent shape. It's got some blemishes, some dings. Got some wear. Almost looks like there's some kind of design in it, but I think that's just the way it is worn. I don't really have lights set up here the way I normally would to show off the finish of that. Haven't figured out a great light setup here in this room yet. So you get the gist of it, how it works, how it's supposed to work. Cool. Jude says that he watched one of my videos to help drill out the old flint. The shavings that came out were rather white or bright. Any idea why that might be? No, not unless there were shavings coming out off the side of that tube. There is, I think the technical term for that flint degrading is, or at least part of the term, part of the process that happens to it is oxidation. Now you also a lot of times, depending whether it's pop metal or some Zamac, some other kind of cheap metal that's used in those inserts, those springs will have a white powdery, it's almost like that powder that you'll see gathering on the terminals of your automobile battery, sort of like that, fuzzy, moldy looking almost. So corrosion can cause some of that, some white effect like that, but it could also be shavings off the inside of the tube, maybe the aluminum. You can see where that might be bright, not really white. So it's hard to say, but my guess would be it might be some kind of effect from the oxidation. I'll have to check that out. The 4 Rooms from 1994, huh? I would guess, Mark asked about the price of a Rogers Rocket Flame these days. I would guess probably you could, when you can find one, I can't remember now. I don't even remember where I got this one, if I purchased this in a group. The key is, though, when it is identified for what it actually is, then it's going to go for a higher price. If I were to put this in my store, which this lighter will be in my store, well, could be later today, I'd probably say it's going to be in the $50 to $70 range, somewhere in there. I haven't done a comp yet. See what they've been selling for on eBay, or if there have even been any sell on eBay in the last 90 days. I can do that real quick. Hello, Jen Kim. Glad to have you with us this morning. He says the flint itself can be whitish and powdery as well. Yep. Could be simply that. Yeah, that's true. He also says, I haven't seen one that's brilliant white, though, but very light gray. Yeah, I've seen a lot of light gray. I've seen a lot of that powdery type corrosion that is pretty white. Pretty white. But I don't know that you would mistake that for the actual metal. I don't know. Yeah, that seems part of, it could be, some of those tubes are fixed in there with some sort of an adherent, a sealant, a glue. It could have been that some of that came out of there as well. He says, maybe I drilled into the part that sits between the flint spring and the flint itself. That's typically just a little metal tip that sits between the flint spring and the flint itself. So typically it's going to be shiny, either silvery or brassish looking. For you guys that are not aware, Jin Kim is one of the experts on Zippo nuances. You ever got a question about anything regarding Zippos, Jin Kim is your guy. Way too many nuances and variations and things at play when it comes to dating a Zippo. There's there's charts out there and they're good, but a lot of those charts require extra information to really dig into and determine exactly what year your Zippo might be. If you got to get into dating the actual insert rather than just the lighter case, and 1,000 other minute details that can come into play. But I am very thankful. Always glad when Jen Kim comments on one of the videos and clarifies, either straightens me out on something that I dated wrong, or gets us to the point where we can date it right, where I may have just been ignorant and not even tried. So I know that the dating of certain lighters, it's really important to some collectors that they could figure out as much information as they can about any lighter in their collection. That's one reason that I document, or try to document, all the information that I do, all the paperwork, all the pamphlets and literatures and boxes that I come across get documented with the lighters. But for me personally, that's sort of the boring, sort of hard work. And so it's the last thing that I do. I'm much more likely to dive in and try to repair it than I am to try to figure out its origin, or who made it, or where the documentation for all that is. Glad to find what I do, but that's not where I'm going to spend the majority of my time. So I am certainly glad for those who do have a passion for it, like our buddy Jen Kim. Yeah, we were talking about that a little, I guess it's been a couple of days ago now on the other live stream, Jen. Just the vast number of lighter manufacturers that there have been, mainly from, I guess, around the early 1900s, 19 teens, maybe right before the 19 teens, when Flint was sort of developed into the kind of product that could easily be used in a little gadget like a lighter, all the way up until today, but especially up into the 1950s. And I think really even there's some great opportunities for collecting lighters that went into the 60s and 70s with park lighters. And you all know that my favorite lighters are the Penguin Cygnus. Those were made in at least into the 60s, maybe into the 70s as well. So Zippo does do a good job with repairs. Yeah, it's of all the companies that had guaranteed, just about every lighter that you can find the box on is going to have a guarantee when it was new, but those companies aren't still repairing them where Zippo is. So yeah, different inserts. Then you got different butane inserts. That's a lot of ways that you can customize them. But also, as you mentioned, when you send one back in for repair, I've never done it. I've just requested the regular inserts. But from what I've seen in the Facebook lighter groups recently, it seems like they do a really good job of trying, at least, to, when somebody requests a pipe insert or whatever, different, even a 41 replica or whatever, depending on what their lighter is. It seems like they're good about accommodating those different petrol lighter inserts. Yeah, the Penguin Cygnuses are cool, man. Those, I've sold a few of them lately. I've got a few that are up there at DependableFlame.com/current eBay listings. And of course, we employ affiliate links there on that page. So you go to that page, you click on one of those links, you make a qualifying purchase, then we earn a commission. But whatever you pay for any given lighter, it's not going to change because you click through from my website. But we do facilitate all of our sales on that one page, DependableFlame.com/current eBay listings. And those links all take you over there to eBay, to our eBay store, wherever. But I think I've sold 4 of those Penguin Cygnuses that were in my personal collection here lately. I've got 3 others that are currently listed for sale, and I've got a few others that I have my eye on to sell. I started as a seller. I'm definitely a collector, more of a collector now than I was a few years ago. But I live in this small apartment here in Oklahoma City, and we just don't have room for all this stuff. I've already got more than is really comfortable to pack away. So from time to time, I kind of have to reevaluate. And as much as I would love to keep all these old cool items that pass through my hands, the truth is that I really can keep very few of them. So, oobla doobla Dylan, I was wondering where you were the other day, buddy. Glad to have you with us today, though. How are things treating you? You looking forward to Christmas? Jude is in Duncan. Cool. Yeah, I know Duncan well. I've been through Duncan many times. Played football against Duncan in high school. Been down, played a lot in every year in high school. We played Duncan my sophomore and junior year. I went to Carl Albert, so depending on your age, you may remember Duncan and Carl Albert being a thing in football. Duncan knocked us out of the playoffs my sophomore year. Mike Gaddis was our running back. He was a senior that year. And no, that was not, I'm confusing games against Duncan. That was my junior year. Duncan ended our season. We were undefeated in the regular season, played Duncan in the first round, and they beat us. Can't remember who that was that knocked us out. It may have been Duncan that beat us in a non-conference game my sophomore year. It's all running together now. Anyway, Carl Albert and Duncan have a lot of history as far as high school football here in Oklahoma. What's on the bottle? It just says Ronsonol. It's just a label. I went to the dropper bottle a few months ago. Keeps me from spilling it. Helps me measuring it a little bit. But I've also got one with concentrated vinegar in it, so that's why the label was necessary. Just hopped on today. Wanted to demonstrate this Rogers Rocket Flame a little bit more. It's a good working lighter. It is a little bit finicky on the fill up. You gotta really get it full before that jet flame will actuate, but yeah, well, Carl Albert's back in the finals again. Play Guthrie, which Guthrie was another team we played every year. They were in our conference back when I was there. But Carl Albert, I believe, has won 18 championships since 1989, which I graduated in 1989. My last football season was '88. So my brother and some of my best friends in life were on that 1989 football team that won it the next year. But I was not a part of the championship myself, but certainly enjoyed my time playing football there. Yeah, Jude, you mentioned the misspelling there. There's certainly many that misspell it, both with the C and the Y, all kinds of variations there. It's one of the things when you go looking for them, I've learned to search through those different variations in spelling. Yeah, Ronsonol. Ronsonol is what it said. Ronsonol is, I don't know, the last I heard, ZF77's thoughts on the matter, it seemed like he thought there was a difference. But I still don't see any difference whatsoever in the Ronsonol or the Zippo lighter fluid. So I've been buying the Ronsonol at Winco, those 12-ounce bottles for about $4 a bottle. So another reason why I decided to do this stream is YouTube keeps encouraging me to do vertical streams. So we'll see how that goes. See how many of you enjoy this. And whether we keep doing it. I'm planning on taking a walk here in a little while down to Scissortail Park. Take a little bit of video for a video that I hope to edit together and post here before Christmas. We'll see. It's not a lighter video, it's more of a hometown video, so we'll see. But you guys let me know, is there any difference? Any benefit for a vertical live stream over a typical landscape live stream, whatever you call it? Yeah, the plant obviously has a lot of, I believe, beneficial effects. I think it is one of the more misunderstood subjects or topics. I think that most of the danger, maybe all of the danger of that plant is in people's heads. And I even hear some reasonable people that I respect that at times I just don't understand what's coming out of their mouth in regard to it. But I've seen more danger out of caffeine, and I'm not trying to make an outrageous statement when I say that. I'm talking about specifically from my own life. I've seen much more danger and things that scared me out of caffeine than I have the cannabis plant. You added any new lighters to your collection lately, Dylan? It's been a while since I sold you a lighter. Is the Marlboro Cowgirl, is she still residing happily there? Did I sell you the Scrimshaw also? I think I did sell you that Scrimshaw. It's the only two that I can remember at the moment. Haven't seen a live stream from ZF77 lately. I don't even maybe a little over a month ago, but I'm not even sure the last time I remember seeing a ZF77 video published. Oh man, yeah. I didn't even think about that element of it, Jude, but you know, there was an article in the paper, this has been 4 or 5 years ago, but there was somebody who ordered powdered caffeine off of Amazon. And I guess you could just order a big old tub of it like you would protein or something. But yeah, there was somebody that died just from putting too big a spoonful of caffeine in there. You know, powdered, concentrated caffeine. That's crazy. There's not a problem from weed that the person suffering that problem can't talk themselves out of. Whatever problem you think weed has caused you, you just think it caused it. It's not really there. Oh, I'm sorry I missed that, Professor. Was that like on a weekend, Saturday night? I always like catching the ZF77 live streams. But I definitely, I don't know where if it was on a weekend, well, really any day of the week, there's no telling. Between trying to get the car fixed over the last couple of weeks and then babysitting the grandkids and other stuff that's been going on with the holidays, Thanksgiving, I definitely could have missed a few things. I am a little bit perplexed that it takes that so many times to light. And it makes me wonder whether, we've actually burned enough fuel out of it that it needs more. But it's such a delicate balance between being overfilled and vapor locked. Let's go ahead and add a couple of droppers and let's see. But being overfilled and vapor locked, it doesn't appear, maybe when we filled it up the other day, we could not get the jet torch flame, the pipe flame to actuate until we got a certain amount of fluid saturating, soaking that wadding. But maybe once you've got that whatever you'd call it, that source prime, then maybe it's not so hard to get it going. So I definitely think you can also burn through quite a bit more fuel with one of these than what you might on just a regular old flip top petrol lighter that just has a stand up flame from a wick where you light a cigarette. You letting that vacuum form that jet flame and hiss out like that is definitely going to be less fuel efficiency, I would think. Vapor locked is when your lighter is overfilled with fuel and the vapors from that fuel flood your ignition area and choke out all the oxygen. Hello, Friedrich. Glad to have you with us this morning, buddy. I don't know if you saw my last message, but I've got a package that I'm ready to send to you. Maybe tomorrow, if not early this next week. I'll try to get it to you before Christmas, buddy. Got one for you and also our buddy Robert Hollingsworth Jr. Coffee Junkie, just met on Tuesday. Glad to have you with us again. Greg Davis, hello, from Albany, West Australia. Awesome. Always glad to see where everybody is from. Coffee Junkie is in St. Louis. Jude is in Duncan, Oklahoma. I think it's cool. It seems like just about every time we do a stream, somebody shows up from Oklahoma. Our buddy Naphtha, who is typically present, is in Tulsa. We've had others. Oh man, I'm not even gonna try to mention those other names because I can't remember a couple of them now. I remember there being one in Edmond. There are a couple here in the metro area, but always nice to see folks that are actually close by, as well as those that are all the way around the world, like Greg in Australia. JT Munn, glad to have you with us. He says, thanks for that info. I didn't know that, and I worked on cars as a younger man. Which info are you talking about, JT? What are you related to working on cars? Can't remember now what I said. Oh, vapor lock. Yeah, I don't know about vapor lock. Well, I mean, I guess vapor lock would be similar in an automobile. It'd be similar to a carburetor being flooded. Yeah, I was talking about it in terms of igniting a petrol lighter. So you've got this wick, and that's not a very good example because you got this brass snorkel here that's kind of in the way and might confuse people, but just ignore that brass snorkel. You've got a wick here, right? And that wick carries fumes from the fuel down in the tank, and they come up here into this ignition area. Well, if the mixture of fumes and oxygen needs to be just right when it combines with the spark. Otherwise, you're not going to get the ignition. You'll see it sometimes blow out, sort of. You'll also hear a snap sometimes. Different ways that vapor lock presents itself. But basically, you just need to dispense with some vapors. Leave the top open for a little bit. Let those vapors disperse. There's also the trick that was printed on the inside of a Zippo pamphlet years ago. I think back in the 50s or 60s. It said to raise the lighter up and then ignite it. Hello, Mark Burris. Glad to have you with us again as well. Is it afternoon already? Getting close. Another 15 minutes or so. Yeah, that's funny. I've spent a lot of time working on cars over the last couple of weeks, or fixing the brakes. Living here where I do, I don't have parts like I used to when I lived in a house. I don't have my garage set up or anything, so having to find what I needed was the hardest part. Actually doing the job was not all that difficult. But yes, they displaced the oxygen. That is correct. Yeah, I think I could be wrong. I don't really, everything that I know about cars pretty much my dad taught me. And everything I know about lighters, I was either taught by the 1954 lighter repair manual, or the Toledo Bend VCL website, or just my own experience. So I may have some terms incorrect here and there, but the phenomena that we're talking about are the same, and it's just a matter of exactly how they fit into those different circumstances. But yes, I think that there's probably a very high relationship between what happens in a flooded carburetor and what happens in a vapor-locked petrol lighter. Check out the live chat again. Yes, I agree with that too, Friedrich. And at one point, that was why I was kind of negative on Roncinol, which, let me go grab it. You can find these bottles in different sizes, 12, 8 ounce, 4 ounces. But like I said, I've been paying $4 for these 12-ounce bottles at Winco, and I don't see any difference. I think that most of the volatility that I have, what I thought, where I used to think maybe the Roncinol was more volatile than the Zippo fluid, just requires a little bit more patience trying to ignite the lighter so quickly after fueling it. The more I've messed with them, the more it seems like, at least with those two fuels, and in relation to putting them in a jet lighter, like I said, that was where I kind of got turned off of Roncinol there for a bit, was several years ago, messing around with a lot of Beatty jet lighters. But in hindsight, I believe that volatility was being caused by them being fueled so recently in relation to when I was trying to use them. But there definitely is some variation between different fuels, and there are a whole lot of other fuels out there than just Roncinol and Zippo lighter fluid. Obviously, plenty of people out there that you'll see in Facebook lighter groups that purport to use naphtha and other alternative fuels on a regular basis. Yeah, yes, it does. It certainly keeps me from overfilling them, Mark, by more than what this dropper will hold. But it also helps me keep a little bit better count rather than just seconds counting droppers. So yeah, I like it, and it's a little bit easier too than, especially with a full bottle. You open up the plastic lid and go to tip it. You're always spilling some. So yeah, I like the droppers a lot. When you say, JT, that you found an old square zip, are you talking about one that somebody had shortened? I've seen those that people have cut down. And of course, some of the older ones there was a little bit of variation in their sizes, I believe. So you're saying, Mark, that for you to go buy a bottle of Bronzanol like this would cost you $12? Do you have Winco? You have Winco near you? I haven't found it for that price anywhere else. I don't think it's that price even on Amazon, but Winco has had those bottles for $4 here for the last 2 or 3 years. Friedrich mentions Coleman camping fuel and hardware store naphtha. Pretty much the same thing. Yeah, I probably ought to try that. Do you get a bad smell off the Coleman or the naphtha fuel? And then Jen Kim points out that according to the material safety data sheet, which is available there on Zippo's website, that the Roncinol and Zippo fluid are chemically identical. Crown white gas. So we got, is white gas the same as Coleman fuel? Well, that's the kind of thing that sometimes it helps. I know a lot of bits and pieces of information from my family growing up in the meatpacking industry. Friedrich. But what's confusing to me at times about that is when I got bits of information from my father and my uncle that contradict each other. Jin Kim says maybe different in Canada or Europe, but it's the same in the U.S. JT asks what's making that flame go sideways. You've got the regular wick, and that's what lights when you light the lighter. You got that jet tube, which is blocked on the underside, and so it creates a vacuum. So I don't understand. I'm not an engineer. I don't claim to understand exactly the the different elements at work to make that happen, but it has to do with those fumes being heated inside that tube and a vacuum created, which then when it ignites pushes it out that tiny, tiny hole. Pretty nifty. Well, I don't know that any of them actually came square from Zippo, but they were squarer maybe. Just like I know the 1941 replica, looks a little bit more squat and square than a typical Zippo lighter. Hello, Jesse. Glad to have you with us today. Yeah, the Ronsonol, I don't see any difference at all. Functionally, as Jen just said, it's according to Zippo's website, it's the same, and that's been my experience as well. It's good fuel, especially if you can get it for a cheaper price than Zippo fuel. I would definitely recommend it. Wow. Yeah, so I guess each batch then could vary that widely, but they both have those same margins. Okay, well that makes sense. Is that sort of like brake cleaner? Does brake cleaner have naphtha in it? Yeah, okay, I got you. You're talking about the some of the real original, more. Yeah, I guess that I see what you're saying there. The corners are more squared. That definitely makes sense. Yeah, those were made out of like square tubing that was then welded the top and the bottom on them, where now I believe they're stamped. But yeah, you're talking about just the first few years, 32, 33, 34 maybe. Maybe not even 34, maybe. Well, and that's another issue. Maybe Jen Kim can give us some, shed some light on that. But according to Larry Tolkien, there was no 1932 Zippo, and he claims that the patent wasn't even applied for until 1933 or 34. I can't remember. It's all very confusing. And Larry Tolkien, Larry Leiter, he has a lot of information, and he has a lot of good information. I'm not trying to be negative, but he's also very opinionated about a lot of stuff that I just don't know that he can be that certain about. Okay, so white gas, common fuel is more purified, kind of like filtered butane. Okay. Mark says, I got a can of Zippo lighter fluid a week or so ago and can't tell a bit of difference in the scent. Okay. Well, maybe I'll try that Crown White Gas or some of these other things you guys are mentioning. I don't want to smell up the apartment, but I'm only demonstrating them in here anyway. The only time I'm lighting these things up in here is making videos or doing a live stream like this. It's not like I'm smoking in the apartment or using these lighters to light something up. It's all demonstrations. So. But even demonstration, if you got some smelly fuel, I guess you could smell up the apartment pretty quick. Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying now, JT. Jude asks, should I be concerned about lead poisoning if I restore and use an old lighter? I'm not sure if lighter fuel ever contained lead like gasoline once did. I don't know if you should be concerned about lead, maybe in some of the materials. I think that asbestos in the wicks, I think it's something you should be aware of. Whether it's something you should be concerned about, I don't know. I know plenty of folks that are not worried a bit about lighting up off of those asbestos wicks. I think the more danger is you cutting on them, releasing fibers into the air and that kind of thing. But I think asbestos is probably as far as like, occupational type hazard for people who mess with old lighters. I think that the asbestos is probably the thing to be most concerned about. Yeah, it probably showed you how. You said you were a kid, JT. How old a fella are you right now? You must be considerably younger than me. But yeah, he probably showed you one of those 32 or 33 replicas. I think they did 2 releases of each of those. But yeah, they're actually quite a bit taller looking of a lighter. But yes, absolutely, the corners are squared and not rounded. Okay, so Mark, you're saying you're not smoking off of that white gas? Okay, well, you're still relatively, you're not all that much younger than me, JT, but I guess it's been a while since those replicas were released, too. That may have been back in the, I can't remember, was that in the 90s when those replicas were released? So, yeah, I guess so. Okay, Jude, what are you talking about? You said, man, I thought about that when looking at the old wadding in this lighter, but thought, nah, they wouldn't use that when cotton would work just fine. Typically what the wadding is in a Zippo is rayon, which I'm not sure that any of us even can tell you the difference, what the difference is between rayon and cotton, or rayon just a fancy form of cotton. I don't know. Jin Kim says the first Zippo patent was filed in mid-34. There's definitely evidence in the form of letters that Zippo was in business to at least 33. That I've personally seen. Yeah, you may be right then. Well, it certainly would have existed by then, I'm sure, JT, by the mid-90s. Yeah, no doubt what Mark said. If you got a lighter that's been contaminated, you just pull out basically all the soft consumable product, the wick, the wadding, clean it up good, clean up all the metal product, make sure that you don't have residual vestigial fluid still clinging to the sides and whatever. Get it cleaned up, soak it in some solvent, some isopropyl alcohol or whatever, vinegar, whatever you like to use, and get that cleaned up. Wash it with soap and water, and then just put a new wick and wadding in it, and you should be like brand new. As far as if you've been contaminated with an unpleasant fuel. Well, I appreciate all you guys joining us this morning. I just really wanted to hop on and check out. Like I said, YouTube keeps asking me to do vertical live streams, so I was just kind of curious what that might be all about, how it would work out. So maybe we can hop on and do a little impromptu live streams here and there. I might hop on later when I walk down to Scissortail Park to shoot that video. See if anybody wants to take a look around Oklahoma City while I'm out and about. But otherwise, I will check back in with you guys soon. I did shoot a video, should have that edited, published at 8 o'clock in the morning. And then there's a short that gets published. Right now we're publishing a short every day at noon, Monday through Friday. And then these live streams, which, man, I'm really overwhelmed how many of you jumped on. At one point we had like 48 people in here at one time, and have been able to say hello to many of you that didn't come by the live stream the other day. Jen Kim, Friedrich, Dylan DePie. Sorry, Dylan, couldn't quite grasp your name. But several of you guys that, Jude, of course, Colt Crow was here right at the beginning. Jude Hendricks, Cardona, Mark M. We had JT Munn. And I'm looking back here, we had one name that joined us today that was here on Tuesday that was new. I wanted to make sure and mention that. Coffee Junkie, there you go. Coffee Junkie, glad to have you with us from St. Louis again. everybody, Greg from Australia, Mark, Friedrich, Jen. If you guys have an idea for a live stream, something that you'd like to see me demonstrate on here, or a topic that we would, or that you think would be beneficial to discuss, let me know. I always like to have some kind of theme or project rather than just sitting down and not having anything on the agenda. But glad to have you all join us, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Hope everybody is safe over the holiday season, the Christmas season. I'm really looking forward to it myself. Got the tree up. And I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody, seeing family that I haven't seen since last year. But I will definitely plan on doing another live before Christmas. Until next time.